Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Fins Faithful podcast. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday evening. I hope you all had a wonderful day so far. It's kind of a different day for us. We pushed it back because we knew the Panthers were playing yesterday, and thank God, because that was a wonderful game to watch. So, as always, guys, we are live with you on YouTube. Make sure to start off, make sure you hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Also, I love the interaction with Jason and I in the chat, in the video, in the comments section. We love the interaction. It's fun for us. And not only it really does help support the channel and kind of help it grow. So we appreciate all that. All right. So we're in episode 3, Jason, of the discussion series. And we got a really cool guest this time. He's a former Dolphins first-round pick, part of the Killer Bees defense, a Pro Bowler, been in 2 Super Bowls with the Dolphins, Ring of Honor. I mean, so many accolades. And after his career, of course, he's a big part of the South Florida media. He also has a podcast with Joe Rose called Out the Pasture. That is Kim Bokamper is with us live tonight. And you know him. He loves to share his opinions. He'll tell us what he thinks. So I'm excited to have Kim back on. This is actually, Jason, Kim's second time on the show. And we'll get into a little bit of the Dolphins. They opened mandatory minicamp today. Jason, there was a few noticeable absences today. We'll talk about those 2 guys. Tua spoke publicly for the first time in a long time. Also, and McDaniel spoke. So, and we'll also get into some of his playing time, some fun questions for him, and some of the stuff when he played. So, let me, without further ado, introduce my co-host, Jason Sarney. Jason, how you doing this evening? I know you're excited about this one.
I'm like jazzed and super excited because this is not just an excellent football player. This is someone who has done really everything in every aspect of Dolphin football, currently still does it in the media aspect of things. And I can't wait to ask him a couple of questions and pick his brain from areas outside of the world of football because you got food, you got film. Enough of me talking. Let's just bring him up.
Let's bring him on. Enough's enough. Kim,
hey.
How you doing? I like the hat. Fresh off.
Yeah, I had to go with the Panther hat.
Hey, fresh off the Panthers game last night. You were there, huh? How was that? How was the boxing match?
It was a late night, but it was a great night.
Yeah. How was it? It was fun times. It was a boxing match or UFC event or something, but it was a good time, huh?
You know what? They scored quickly right off the bat, and they didn't look back after that. Edmonton kind of got a goal on them, but then they stretched it out, and it's nothing like there's nothing like playing a team and you beat their ass so bad that they get so frustrated, and then they try to take you down with their fists, and then I think there was something like, I don't know if it was 80 penalty minutes in that game or whatever, and it was out of control, but it was good out of control.
Yeah, and you showed us backstage what they gave you, right? The helmet you got hooked up.
I got one of my friends works with the Panthers sent me a helmet. This is actually the helmet. It was one of the guy, number 12. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Gold. Where is it? It's in
here.
The guy,
he has
Gadjevich.
He has a meme, whatever you call it. Now with the tongue out. He's the one who gave it to Daniel Nurse in that fight. He's that tough guy.
It was one of his old helmets. And so the equipment guy put my number on it, and I actually asked him. I got a little scooter and I wear a helmet, so I asked him just for a sticker I could put on my helmet, and he gave me a whole helmet.
That's a great upgrade.
So now they'll see you riding the scooter with everybody's gonna be like, "What the?" All right. So let's bring it back here to the Dolphins. Yeah. We mentioned today they had mandatory minicamp. Couple guys not there. Kim, not a surprise. We knew Sealer was there, but
Sealer was there.
Yeah, of course, Ramsey and Jonnu Smith not there.
Yeah.
Let's hit those 2 guys first. Let's start with Jonnu. Look, I have no problem what he's doing. The guy wants to get paid. He's going to be 30. He's coming off a great year. He's making not even $4 million a year, and he's underpaid. How do you think this situation? Do you think the Dolphins end up giving him the contract, or you think they move on with it? How do you see this playing out, and kind of your thoughts on it?
You go back to last year when you had Tyreek wanted to get paid, Tua wanted to get paid, and Waddle, he wanted to get paid, but he wasn't being very vocal about it. I think Tua was, so in that situation, Tyreek. and so they paid those guys, and I don't think they really got their money's worth out of it. I think all of us would agree with that. With the first year of those contracts for all three of those guys were a little disappointing. And so, sometimes I get a little bit hesitant. I kind of go back to where, look, you sign a contract, you play the contract, but that's old school, and that's a thing of the past. So John, who gets a 2-year I think he got a 2-year contract, right?
Yeah.
Played 1 year on the contract. Now he wants to renegotiate, and I can understand that. Understand that situation. But the other thing I'll say about the salary cap is, I learned a long time ago that I'm not going to worry about the salary cap. I've seen teams I remember one year Tampa Bay was like strapped for money, up against the salary cap, and they signed like 2 or 3 big time free agents and found some way to maneuver the salary cap so they can get them in. So, so I don't, I really don't put much stock in salary cap numbers. Let the bookkeepers, let the bean counters figure it out, because they always seem to do it. And look, Jonnu Smith, he had a great year last year, and with how lethargic our deep passing game was last year, we need to have him back in doing something. And hopefully he'll play the same way. He started off a little slow. They weren't giving the ball to him early on, but he was contributing in the running game, blocking everything. But boy, when he started putting the gas on it, we really saw what we need more of this year. So hopefully they get that worked out. And we know Ramsey's not going to be there. That's a thing of the past. And so we'll just kind of go from there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One last thing on Smith. Would you give him, let's say, a $7-8 million deal for a couple years, or because it looks like, he's not, Drew's his agent, so
yeah,
it looks like he wants the money, or he's willing to go elsewhere.
Yeah, so that's my only thing about it. And again, it's not about the salary cap. It's about, okay, now we'll double your amount. We'll double your money, give you $9 million, $8 million, whatever it is. And then he has another good year, and then he wants to. You want to renegotiate again. And look, Drew's become a master of, getting his guys the money they want, when they want it, when they're in a situation like this. He always finds some way, and he's got a very good relationship with most of the GMs in the league that he's cultivated over a number of years. I mean, he's been doing this now about 30 years, and so he's got a good rapport with the teams, and I think he understands where the no-go line is, and he just pushes them right to that. So, hopefully within a week or two, we're not talking about salaries and guys holding out and this and that, or by the time we go to camp. But so there's nothing to worry about with mini camp.
Yeah.
Still, there's still time, and so hopefully they'll all find common ground.
Yeah. You mentioned Ramsey. That's the other guy. I think that we all thought, June 1st comes, he's magically going to get dealt like they had a deal. I think the money's the issue. He's 25 guaranteed this year.
I don't think it's the money's the issue. I think the issue is he doesn't want to be there anymore. I don't think he didn't like Vic Fangio. I don't think he has high regard for Mike McDaniel. And he's one of those guys that are in the locker room. If he's not happy, you don't want him around in there. That to me is the issue with him. He could drag your whole locker room down. And I know Mike this year is trying to remake himself again. I think he tried to remake himself a little bit last year to be a tougher coach. And I think he's trying to create something else in the locker room this year. And he was pretty emphatic about what he said. He says, one of the guys asked him something. He says, well, what do I think about him? He says, I really don't take too much time to give a shit to think about.
Yeah, he did. I saw that.
So that's, but my only thing with that is, the timing, like it was 2 weeks before the draft, and all of a sudden, it comes out and both sides say, no, we don't want him back. He doesn't want to be back. And so anything you could have gained from draft pick wise or anything kind of went down the tube at that point. Now, I don't know what you get for the guy at this point.
Yeah. The thing with it's a great point you make on Ramsey. Now, let me ask you this. When I said the money, I mean maybe the other teams. don't want to take. They want the Dolphins to eat more money out of the 25.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah. So and that's I think maybe the Dolphins are saying no, just this is what it is. Take him. We already ate $4 million of it, his bonus. So I think that's probably what's holding up the deal. But I want to ask you. You made a point. Is that the difference between Tyreek and Ramsey? Tyreek's good in the locker. It's what he does when he leaves the building.
Well,
but Tyreek's good in the locker room. Is that the difference? I know Tyreek.
So look. Here's one thing I'll say about Tyreek. When he's there, when he's on the field, he works his ass off. He works as hard as anybody on his craft and doing all this. Sometimes you don't know if he's there on time. But there's always seems to be, look, in this, I'm going to say this about Tyreek, and you could put that on almost every team that's had a high-end top wide receiver. Those guys are always making trouble. There's trouble surrounds all these guys. So, you give Tyreek money last year, opening day, whoever was right, whoever was wrong, he winds up on the pavement, and he becomes the story instead of opening day. And then things seem to just kind of, as the season went along, he kind of pouted a little bit, and then to quit on the football team in the last game, to me is, it's hard for me to swallow that. But certainly if he goes out and approaches a 2,000-yard season this year, which is what he's talking about, well then you can live with that. But it was a very disappointing year with him. Being that. Stephen Ross, gave him a lot of money, gave Tua a lot of money, and who else did he give? He gave Waddle a lot of money.
He gave everybody money last year. McDaniel, Greer.
He didn't get a lot of return on his investment on that. So I think all those guys need to pay back a little bit, from a production standpoint.
Now, I'm so glad you brought that up, because on a flip side of things, you have a guy like Zach Sealer who was at camp, participatory. And just 2 years ago, he signed an extension when he already had 10 career sacks.
Yeah.
He didn't pop off yet, so to speak. He's still extremely underappreciated. But for a guy like him, coming off captaincy year and 2 10-plus sack season, isn't there an aspect of this is a guy you have to reward?
No question. I mean, look, Zach is, there are guys, and he's one of those guys that, his value of what he does on the field is only a part of the package. He's a great locker room guy. He's a guy that'll wrap his arms around these Kenneth Grant and Phillips and what's the guys? Biggers. Yeah. He'll wrap his arms around them and teach them. And by the way, I looked at all those guys today, and they look pretty good. Those guys, Kenneth Grant looks good.
Oh, you were out there today, right?
Looks really good. And I tell you, Biggers, I thought he was like a big, heavy guy. He's got a nice build to him, and so he may be a surprise. So anyway, but with Zach will make each one of those guys better. How much better, I don't know, but he'll make those guys better. But I don't see Zach being a guy that holding out of a mini. He's not even holding out of a mini camp.
Right.
He's there, and he's doing some stuff with those guys. And I've seen him saw him talking to him today. But I think, if he doesn't get a contract when the bell rings, I think he's going to be there ready to go. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to hold out when the regular season begins. I just don't see it. I just don't see his character.
Yeah.
Real quick about Biggers. I think Biggers has basketball background, and I know you're a basketball guy, multi-sport kind of guy. So hopefully there's a shock factor of what he can do physically.
Yeah. I kind of just thought, when I heard him draft, I go, it's just another throw-in out there. But and again, look, it was mini camp. They're not in pads. But and usually what I do, I don't look at Tua threw an interception or this guy did that. I don't do any of that in mini camp. When I go out and watch mini camp, I go and sit. I watch them do their fundamental drills. I sat there with the DBs watching them doing their stuff. I sat there watching the outside linebackers, doing their pass rush drills and the fundamental stuff. And that's what I look at. I don't do anything that they do team-wise is not a big deal to me. But I was impressed with the biggest thing that impressed me about the Biggers guy, and I know I'm talking about him, was I expected a guy that was more like just a big, heavy guy that couldn't move, but boy, he's far from that. So hopefully we got
he's long, right? He's real long, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the draft class, and you were out there today, how do you like this class so far? What you've seen? You had the opportunity to see them. Grant Savianaya. I hope I said that right.
I like Savinaya, and I don't know if I'm saying it the right way either.
Jonah S. Right?
but I like him. He you know what I was talking to one of the coaches, and I played on the West Coast in college, and so I played with a lot of guys, Polynesian guys, in particular the Samoan players, and boy, I love to play with those guys. They've got something in their genes that they're dogs. They'll protect you. They'll protect you if some guy's getting taken advantage of. I mean, they're just so I'm expecting it. He looks really good. He moves really well. He's an athletic guy. And then if this kid Daniels comes in, I think he's still working on. We're not sure whether he's going to be ready at training camp. I think just those two moves, and I'm also a big Patrick Paul fan. I think Patrick Paul is going to be a really, really good player. I liked him all last year because I think he's fundamentally sound. He's got a really good base. He's got long arms, and when he gets his hands on you, you're not going anywhere. And the other thing is, when Tehran went out, he got a lot of snaps to make mistakes. And when you can see those snaps to make mistakes, it's easier to improve on them than if you were just sitting on the sideline the whole year and trying to think it through. Now he's got it on tape. Tehran's still working with him. I know when Calais was helping him out and stuff too. So I think that offensive line is probably going to be maybe the biggest improvement of this football team this year, which pleases me. I've been begging for that for years and years.
Yeah. You got something, Jason? Go ahead.
No, just offensive line wise, I'm curious. You have a guy in Patrick Paul who's his first full season. Let's be real, his second season, and then you almost have a question mark on putting a rookie next to him or a veteran in James Daniels. As a player, do you have a school of thought of what might be a better play specifically for Paul, or just whoever's better position regardless?
I guess I don't think it's going to mean that much, but I would probably want to have the veteran guy over by next to Paul, so it'll work that way. But and then to have Austin Jackson coming back, so that's you got a rookie over there, and Solovio, whatever's neck. One of these days I'll figure it out.
Jonah S.
So, yeah, there you go. We got to get a nickname for the big fella.
Yeah.
But I think that'll work. But I'm really excited about that. It should really enhance the running game and certainly give Tua a little opportunity to be upright a little more often.
Yeah. Anybody else stand out to you today? Like you caught your eye, any of the UDFAs or any of the new guys? Any rookies or
well, Ethan Bonner looked pretty good out there, but he always looks good in minicamp.
Yeah, and then the season starts. He's on the inactive list.
Well, it's like there's a couple of these guys that I scratch my head. I'm like, well, I don't have my hair anymore, but I scratch my head and and look. Hopefully, this guy's. I look at Tanner Connor. He's been here 4 years. In every mini camp, I go, whoa. They go, oh man, this guy had a great mini camp, and you never see him in the regular. And to me, I'm like, you got guys like that. I think Cam Smith is one of those guys, and a couple other guys that to me, it's basically a wasted roster spot because once they get to the regular season, they don't play, they don't give you any production, and for me, I'd be like, let me get 4 new guys, 3 or 4 new guys, and just see what they can do because it can't be much worse than that. I probably shouldn't be pointing names out on people, but that's what I do.
You got a lot of undrafted free agents, specifically in the cornerback room, and finding the boundary on the outside. Kato, another undrafted, is the slot guy. We know that.
Well, you look at your corners now; it's probably Kato, Kahu, and Storm Duck.
There you go.
They're right.
I was going to ask.
Who's going to figure out someone in the safety position? And so they were hoping Cam Smith. I don't know,
Bo. I don't know about that.
Well, look. So Cam Smith today, when I'm watching, and I looked, it was there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
When I saw him, he was working with the 3rd and 4th team.
Wow.
He wasn't nowhere near the first two substitution rows. So that doesn't bode well for him.
No. How did Marshall look? I know he got beaten on last play, Malik. Did you notice the kid out of Florida, the rookie? Jason Marshall? Or?
No, not really. You know, I actually had something to do. I watched once they got to punting and stuff. I kind of went in. So,
Oh, yes,
but
that's a smart idea.
So I don't. But I'm not. Like I said, to me, what you do in mini camp.
Yeah.
The thing about, I was just talking to Joe Rose about this a little bit ago.
Oh, Joe.
Where the guys, when we get together, it's all a whole shit fest.
Hey, I've been dying to get Joe on. It's impossible. It's impossible to get Joe on.
But so I sit there a lot of times, and I'm sitting with with the other media guys, and this guy threw an interception at practice. Oh my gosh, this is it, and my thing is, I'd rather see him throw an interception in practice than in a game. And what I'm saying is, you don't know if that guy's saying, "Hey, I want to see if I can squeeze this ball in, so that if I can't, I'm not gonna try it in a game. But if I can, I can put that in my arsenal now." And so, you never know what a player is thinking on the field in practice, especially in a mini camp. And to evaluate those guys like, oh, he threw this ball, or this guy caught a great pass there. I think that's worth, I don't know, maybe a half of a Hostess Twinkie or something.
Guys, we're live with Kim Bokamper. Guys, make sure you hit that thumbs up, like button, and subscribe. And we were talking Dolphins. Bo was at the mini camp today. The quarterbacks, I heard Tua talk, and there's a couple of interesting things where he mentioned, I thought it was good that he talked about like he's got to it's just one play. He's got to kind of tuck the ball, move on, and live for another down for the bigger of the team. I don't remember his exact quote, but it was something like that. And
something like, look, if you make a bad play, just don't
move on.
Move on. Don't let it haunt you the rest of the game. You can't do that. And there was a couple of times today where he actually threw the ball in the ground couldn't get a ball off and threw it in the ground, which in a practice like this is probably not something you want to see. And then, but he threw some balls, some nice balls. I think he's got a lot of things that are shuffling through his head. The injury situation, and Mike talked about it when he was at the podium today about everything that he's thinking about is staying healthy, as are the rest of the players in the offense, including the offensive line, the fullback, all the people that help keep him up. And then he's trying to kind of get back into the scheme of things because of all the games he missed last year. So he's to me I hope he has a good year. I like him. I like the kid, and I think if he throws in that, he's a timing guy. 1, 2, 3, go. Once he kind of pulls that ball back down again, then it's all the cards are on the table.
Yeah. How do you like the other guy? I mean, the new quarterback room in general. Ewers, I know the last practice everybody said he did well. This one they said he threw a couple picks. It's hard to read tweets and put context to it.
You know what? There's a reason he's a 7th round draft pick.
Yeah.
It's if he was, and then you got Zach Wilson in there. And Zach, I haven't watched Zach a lot. I saw him in a couple series today. All I know, he was the 2nd pick in the draft, and he's on his 3rd team in 4 years.
Not good. Yeah, I think the silence is enough said. I think
he said it enough.
He said enough. Is this the moment? Let me not say too much, guys. Let me.
Hey, look! I hope he's better than we saw Skylar Thompson last year in Seattle.
Oh man, we're setting the bar pretty high there, right, with Skylar. So Tua also talked about the culture. He thinks the culture change. He's seeing it's real. He's saying, I want to ask you, as somebody who played at a high level, we mentioned you were on the Killer Bees defense, you on the great Dolphin teams. How important is team chemistry and locker? I think it's underrated. And how much is it actually translating to winning on the field? Like, if you have the chemistry of a group of guys, kind of like we see the Panthers, is that also in football? Does it translate on the field? Like, does it translate to a few more wins?
It does, but it's a little more difficult than when I came into the league, because when I came into the league, I was there for 10 years, and there was no free agency, very few trades. And so just about everybody I played with on that team, like AJ and Baumhauer came. I played with them for 8 or 9 years altogether. Doug Betters, I played with him for 7 years, and you get to know guys from a football standpoint, to where any of those guys in the line of scrimmage, we could just like kind of look at each other and not say anything, and you knew what you were thinking. And that takes a long time to cultivate that and get that kind of a situation. Now these guys, I think the number's still the same. I think it's a 40%, every team, there's a 40% turnover every year in the National Football League between free agents, guys that get cut, draft choices. 40% of the teams in every team in the league has that much turnover. So it's hard to develop that turnover. Look, you like just go back to Christian Wilkins and Zach. They had great chemistry. They had it for 2 years, and then Christian goes, and then he had great chemistry with Calais last year, 1 year gone. And so it's hard to develop that kind of chemistry. Now there's a different chemistry in the locker room is how much do your guys want it? The guy that's coming late for practice, don't want it that much. Guy that misses a practice, don't want it that much. Guy that's healthy but doesn't want to play, that doesn't help it. And so that's what's fine. That's what gets the locker. It's funny, and I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. I bet you could go back to the last 15 teams that won the Super Bowl, and you could ask them, hey, what was the oh, we had great chemistry. It's always great chemistry when you win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Whether they may have been like at their neck, at each other's at their throats in the middle of the season in a losing streak. But once you win it, everything is great in the locker room. But I think Mike's trying to change it. I think what I do like about what Mike's doing this year. I think he's going to rely on these young guys. He's going to give the young guys a lot more time in training camp. Put them in the games, let them play, which I agree with, because you put those guys at those, especially the draft choices, and it may be a free agent or two that always kind of pops up, like like a Kahoo and some of those guys that have jumped out there. Give those the times instead of relying on the veteran guy that you got that's got 2 more years left, and he's dragging one leg around, and you feel like you can get as much out of him, but you don't. So I think that's going to do something to maybe help those guys find some camaraderie in that locker room and develop a chemistry. But and I hope that's the case. 'Cause it seems like the guys, I ran into some of the guys somewhere around last week, and the young guys all seem to be really good guys and guys that were really dedicated. I think we saw last year when Chop came in, when Patrick Paul came in, and some of those guys, they wanted to get better. They wanted to work, and they went to the veterans and they worked on it and worked on their craft. And so I hope that bleeds into these new young guys coming in. And if you could do that for 2 or 3 years, when I came in, I think our first year, we just missed the playoffs, and it was myself, AJ, Bob Baumhauer, we had Norris Thomas, 4 rookies started on our defense, and we had young guys on offense, Durio Harris and some of those guys, because we were kind of filling in after the 17-0 guys, because they were on the edge of their career. So we filtered in that way. And so it took us probably 2 or 3 years before we started getting into the playoffs, moving through the playoffs, getting to our first Super Bowl and everything. But you could feel it coming really in the first year when we got Dwight in the second, another year later. So, hopefully that's kind of a pattern that we're seeing right now from last year to this year with the Dolphins. If what I think these rookies going to be like, how they're going to turn out.
Yeah. Shout out to Armando. Thank you for
Armando.
$10.
Sure.
This we just started that. This is our first one. Our first on the Kim Bokamper.
$10 from him.
Yeah. Well, it's in the mail then. But thank you. We don't. We that's something I don't try to ask. It's available if you want to help. It's just to help run the show. We appreciate it. Thank you, Armando. He's stoked for watching you, Bo. Yeah, everybody's saying we need to get Kimbo here on a weekly basis. Maybe we got to negotiate something. Send some more chats. Maybe we can afford Bokamper during the regular season.
Send your guys to out to pasture. Have them,
Yeah.
Oh no, we're gonna get there.
And then you do that. We'll get me and Joe together. We'll come on.
We're gonna hold you to that.
Don't tease me like that, Bo.
Okay, I got to ask the question now.
Thank you.
But got to bring it to him.
Thank you, Armando, and thank you, everybody in the chat. We appreciate it. Thank you.
For sure. We're definitely going to touch on that. But one of my favorite things about Dolphins history, and I can't wait to hear your perspective about you, the Bees. You're watching Marino. We'll get into that. Yeah. But Joe Rose caught Marino's first touchdown.
Yeah.
Where is that ball?
Well, Danny says he's got it.
I need to find
Oh,
it.
boy.
I need to know.
Joe says he's got it.
Threw it behind him like it was like a bomb.
We know who's got it. It's got to be Danny. We know who's got it.
I think you may have picked the wrong horse.
Oh, no!
I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's it. That's a great team. That's
actually it makes sense that Joe has
it's become a little folklore, so I can't,
Yeah, okay.
Can't give it up.
Good enough. But tell us about, you mentioned some of your teammates, the Killer Bees. You got 6 B initials, but you have more cast of characters to that awesome run you guys had. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, we had a really fun team. I think everybody that everybody we played with. I mean, I love AJ, Bob Baumhauer, Doug Betters. I mean, we were just tight as could be. And then we had the Blackwood brothers. When Lyle came, that changed our. That really was a big good. It was good for Glenn. It was great for us because those guys were much like Dick Anderson and Jake Scott, not quite as athletic, but they were very smart. And so they had an ability they'd break the huddle and they'd be able to, they'd read formations, they'd cheat and, to get in a spot where they knew what was going to happen. And then they would send us information from the secondary and stuff like that. And then we had Larry Gordon early on, Bob Brzezinski came in and then offensively, Joe, when Joe came in and, Don Strock, who was, has every story in the book. And so I'll give you this one. So we remember Bruce Hardy. Bruce Hardy was a really,
end. Yep.
I think he still holds the record for career catches for the tight ends for the Dolphins. And I don't know if you ever know, when he was in high school, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Oh.
He was on they called him, I forget what they call, but so he was on there for the best schoolboy athlete ever, high school player. He went to school somewhere in Utah. He's like an all-state baseball, all-state basketball, all-state football. He was like, I mean, to be on sports, he wasn't in the I don't know if you remember they had the faces in the crowd.
Yeah.
That one thing where you'd see a couple guys. No, he was he had the full cover in there. So so I see Bruce come in, and I go, "Wow, man, that's Bruce Hardy. I remember seeing him on Sports Illustrated." So I go, "I'm going to walk by his locker room and talk to him." He's smoking a cigarette, and just going, "Hey, Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on here?" So it was a cast. It really was a good cast of characters, and offensively and defensively. We really mingled together. We would go out on Thursday nights because we'd always have weigh-in on Thursday mornings, and we had an easy practice on Friday. So, we would just say, hey, we're going to go to this restaurant. And it wouldn't be unusual to have 15, 20, 25 guys show up there with their girlfriends and wives and whatever, and just hang out and, nothing organized, but just kind of loose. And it was, but again, with no free agency, we bonded pretty well. Lyle and Glenn Lyle was the biggest prankster we had on the team. And, and a lot of it had to do with Shula too.
Oh man,
he was such a son of a bitch, man.
You must have got some good Shula stories though. Huh?
You had to you had to circle the wagons, So there was a story where Joe Rose, we were playing the Dallas Cowboys, and I think it was when Danny White was the quarterback. So we got the ball, and it was about 3rd and 7, and Joe was kind of like the he was kind of the third down tight end. He was the
Julian Hill. The Julian Hill.
What's that?
Is he the Julian Hill? Was he the Julian Hill? Or?
No. He was a pass catcher. He was a third down guy. He was the guy that had the he was
a pass catching tight end, right? Yeah.
And so he runs a route. Runs it like I said, 3rd and 7. Runs a route to probably about 8 yards, and I don't remember who the quarterback was. It may have been Strock. Throws a football right in his hands and he drops it, right. And so he's coming and Coach Shule's just off of his head. God damn it. Catch I don't want to say, how far can I go on this thing? Catch the fucking ball. That's the only reason you're here is to catch that goddamn ball, And so Joe walks by him and sits on the bench, and Shule's like sneering at him from behind, and then he turns around to the next play, and which was a punt, obviously. And so Nat Moore and Jimmy Cephalo come and sit down next to Joe. And they're going, "Oh man, don't listen to that guy. You'll make the play the next time. Don't." And then all of a sudden, Coach Shula turns, "Where's Rose?" Jimmy goes that way, Nat goes that way, and he comes back and starts harassing him again. God damn it! You gotta catch that freaking ball.
That's great.
So then the Colts or then the Cowboys get the ball, and we had that running back named Ron Springs, and Ron, the same thing. 3rd and 6, they got to throw the ball. Danny White throws the ball away. The guy jumps up, one-hands it, pulls it down, first down, and Chulos. God damn it! Where's Rose? Their guy makes the play, and you don't. And then Jimmy and them come back again. As soon as Schuster, they get away. So, yeah, but so that was the sideline was a little bit. A lot of entertainment on the sideline.
Yeah,
great visual.
You mentioned Dan Marino. You were there when he's rookie year, right? Did you know like, all right, this is different right away? Yeah. Like this is it. He's that guy.
No, you know what? I didn't know. We heard about Danny. Yeah. But the guy that dominated that draft was Elway.
Oh yeah.
Elway was the big catch. And so and certainly there was, because I think that was who else was in that draft? A lot of good guys.
Jim Kelly, Ken O'Brien.
Yeah, Ken O'Brien. I think that wasn't the top Blackledge.
That was Blackledge. He was like the fifth.
Yeah, all those guys, and then and then
was Kelly in that? Kelly was in that.
When Danny dropped down there, we knew he was a pretty good quarterback, but we didn't know because like that. We didn't have ESPN back then. I think it was just starting. So we didn't see if you saw college football, you'd see Alabama, Texas. You never saw Pitt. Never saw Pitt play. Like I see Tony Dorsett. I maybe saw him play one game before he came into the league. And so you did. So he kind of surprised, but he kind of surprised us. But I tell you, didn't take. So this. Well, I remember we were in Shea Stadium playing the Jets, and Danny was. So it was. I think it was the second game that he played. They put him in Oakland, or we in the Coliseum when the Raiders were in LA in the middle of the game, and he lit them up pretty good, And so we're in the Shea Stadium playing the Jets, and he throws a ball. So we're around the midfield or just over the 50-yard line. I'm standing on the sideline watching. By that time, I'd been in the league for like 6 years, 7 years. At that point, you've seen everything. Seen every good play, big tackles, runs. You kind of seen. You're used to the quality of the NFL. And so Danny, when he was young, he had some leg. He wasn't going to run for yardage, but he would move around the backfield. He would kind of go side to side and kind of. So anyway, so we got to pass. We got to play, and so he drops back and he starts getting pressure from the side. So he runs to the right, and he's got Joe Rose crossing about a 20-yard crosser, and you see Danny. Danny's waving to him, or he's going. He's running this way, waving to him. Joe, and so he steps up and he throws a ball, and I'm going to tell you what, that ball it went on a rope. It was no arc in the ball. It had to be 25 or 30 yards, and there's two DBs coming on Joe, and both of them, and like both their hands like this, and the ball threads right through their hands, right into Joe's hands like this, and he caught it. And I'm on the side, and I looked at the guy next to me. And I go, did you? And I look at this guy, and everyone's going, "Did you see what I just saw?" So at that moment, he knew he had something pretty good.
Yeah, that was that was your welcome moment. Okay, yeah, he's
I'm also glad you mentioned his lateral movement in the pocket. You know, he was so like he wasn't going to rush like today's quarterback, but that man would quantum leap 3 feet 1 inch. Just
well,
enough.
Let me tell you what, he was. I've never seen. He may be the best quarterback I've seen in that 3-yard square behind the center, because he would step up, he would slide over, slide back, he would slide left, slide right, and kind of dive. He worked that pocket better than I think maybe the best of all time that I've ever seen.
It's not just the rush yards for mobility, I guess, right? Agility. We can call it.
You must have a good. Do you have a good Schuler or Marino's a story that you probably already told, but like a good Schuler story? Because I'm so fascinated. I wish I was a younger at that age.
I'll tell you a good Schuler and Bob Greasy story.
Okay,
nice.
All right, I got to go way back to Bob Greasy. So they're playing in the Super Bowl. I think it's the one they lost to. I think they lost to Dallas. Was it the first Super Bowl? So they're playing Dallas, and they're in about, I guess they're probably about the 30-yard, maybe 40-yard line going in, and so Greasy drops back for the pass, and all of a sudden here comes who is their big defensive end?
Oh man.
So anyway, the big defense. I'll remember it. Anyway, so he gets rushed by the defensive end, and then all of a sudden he turns, and here comes Too Tall Jones.
Too Tall Jones. Yeah.
So he's rushing away from the one defensive end, and then Too Tall Jones. So Bob was a scrambler, so he kind of turned around and went backwards. So someone's coming here, and then there. So he's zigzagging back and forth. And going backwards. So they finally tackle him, and he says I think it's still a record for a Super Bowl record now. He got sacked for like a 39-yard loss, right? And so he's been running around. Been running around, and so he calls timeout because he's out of breath, and he called his own plays.
Oh, wow.
So Bob called all of his own plays, and he always said that Shula would come on the sideline and bug him about giving him a play. I don't want to hear you play. I got the play, And so he comes over to the sideline just to catch his breath. And here comes Shula coming up to him. He says, hey, Bob, what are you going to call now? It's 3rd and 42. What are you going to call? And he said, well, Coach, he said, you've always wanted to call a play. Why don't you be my guest? And Shula says, no. You got us into this mess. You get us out.
Wow, that's psychological warfare almost right
I'm
there.
assuming they didn't convert on the 3rd and 42.
No.
This is some great history.
Do you remember the play?
I remember the play. Yeah, I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But he was like, he was a lot like, he was a very athletic guy, Bob. I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserved, because he was like a Fran Tarkenton, that would really just move. They wouldn't run down the field, but they're gonna. I remember playing against Fran Tarkenton. He'd drive you crazy. You'd think you have him, and then next thing you know, and then you got to run about another 10 yards because he's going in the other direction. Then he's coming back, and so he was a. Bob does. I think Bob's I think Danny kind of overshadowed him, and people don't really realize how good Bob was.
So we got 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks that we just talked about, and there are great amount of Dolphins in the Hall of Fame, of course, but there are some glaring omissions in a lot of our minds. Yeah. I know for a fact one name, Bob Kucherberg, stands out. And if we talk about the offensive line, but if you could talk to Fin fans of a little, younger age, might not have seen him play.
Yeah.
Just how good was he, and how tough
Bob may have been the toughest guy I've ever seen. Really. I mean, played with multiple injuries, and he played every position. I mean, he was our backup kicker, our backup field goal kicker too. And so, came from Notre Dame, came from a tough Chicago family, and he was just one of those guys. And he was a bulldog. I mean, he, whatever he needed to do. I think the first Super Bowl they went to, it was either the first playoff game or the last regular season game. He broke his wrist, and the doctor said, "Hey, you can't play." He goes, "No, I'm playing. We're in the playoffs. I'm playing." So the doctor said, "No, you can't play. Your wrist is broken." He said, "Well, you fix it. You figure out a way to fix it." So he had the doctor. The doctor went in and cut his, did some surgery, took all the stuff out of, what's the stuff that's inside your bone.
Marrow?
Yeah, took all the
Bone
marrow
marrow, yeah.
and put a titanium shaft in that void, and he played the rest of the year, and played in the Super Bowl with that thing. And so, from toughness, and look, I know Joe DeLamielleure is in the Hall of Fame. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer from Buffalo, and I played against Joe, and I played against Bob in practice. And I tell you what, if on any given Sunday, I'd rather play against Joe DeLamielleure than Bob Kuchenberg, because Bob was going to get the job done, no matter how. If he had to leg whip you, if he had to do whatever, he was going to get the job done. So it's because I really became very good friends with him, and I'm still disappointed that we lost him, and he didn't have a chance to enjoy. I was with him a couple times when they were announcing it. I was sitting right by him, and when they called and said no, he didn't make it. I mean, he was devastated. But boy, what a player he was.
One more offensive lineman that much more currently, Richmond Webb.
Yeah.
I mean, probably for my money, that was my time growing up.
Yeah.
1990, that was when it started for me, really.
Yeah.
Best left tackle of the 90s. Why is he not in?
Richmond's a real quiet guy. Great guy.
Great guy. We've had him on a couple of times. Nicest
very
guy.
Humble, very, I mean, and it's a travesty that he's not in. I mean, he played against with Danny when we had Danny, he played against all the Bruce Smiths, all the best pass rushers. Played, and I don't think he gave up maybe 4 or 5 sacks his whole career when Danny was back there. And so, and I know other guys had, you had guys that talked a little more, were maybe a little more camera active and stuff. But that's I really was hopeful last year. And look, all the fans and everybody really did a good job trying to promote him as much as they could. But he just fell short. So still hoping, hopefully he can get another run at it this year. I don't know what the rules are, or what the years are, and I've never had to worry about that. So, but I hope at some point he gets his due, because he's just a quality person, and a fantastic football player.
100%.
Yeah, I've had him on a few times, and you're shocked when you have this idea of what a professional athlete's like, and he's just the nicest, sweetest, gentlest guy. And that's backstage. That's not a front. That's who Richmond is. So
real.
Yeah. Terrific guy. All right, let's we'll wrap it up pretty soon here. Let's talk about your Out to Pasture podcast with Joe.
Yeah.
It's a great podcast. Last time I had you on, you said I'm under 50. I can't be.
So we started this podcast just to look. I'm 70 years old right now, and
you look great, man. You look great.
So, thank you. So I was thinking about, I had people ask me to do a podcast, and I too many of them, and so I had a little health scare a couple years ago, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to, and then I had an Apple Watch that kind of showed me where my heart was doing, and that kind of helped me out, and it kind of got me thinking about technology and health. And look, I'm not very good on the computer, and I'm not very good with my phone, but I do know that with my Apple Watch, I could figure out what my heart was doing and what issues I was having. And so I thought to myself, I said, if I'm having trouble, there's a lot of guys in my age that are having that same trouble. And so I just decided to do a pod. And we talk about, you got to be 50 years or older to be on a podcast.
We're out, Jason.
But we talk about, we
Wasn't in.
Yeah, we're getting close though.
We just had Joe Klecko on a couple
Joe
weeks
Klecko.
ago.
Oh, wow.
We had and we had Marty Lyons on a couple of years. I think we're going to get Thomas Henderson coming on here. We got Jerry Bailey, the jockey, coming on. So we've got a lot of good guys, and so we talk to them and tell stories and do this. But then we always get to usually they got an ailment that we can talk about or multiple ailments. So Joe Theismann, we had him, and he just gives a message, said, hey, look, when you get to this age and you got aches and pains, he said my wife wanted me to help pick up a rug that they were kind of moving, and he said I can't pick up that rug, and she goes, oh, he said, well, you should, and he goes, no, I can't. He said I just can't do it, because if I do it, I know it's going to hurt my back. And so it's that. I mean, his message was, hey, look, don't be a hero. Don't try to do something that you can't going to do. That's going to help you do something for your health. And just be honest with you. Larry Zonka talked about just getting up every morning and making sure you walk so he can be with his grandkids. So it's just little messages that are easy to do, but they're all for all for people, and like it's for the baby boomers for pretty much. So from 50 now to we've had guys. I almost had a guy on that was 100 years old, and he's still he's a bodybuilder.
Did you see the guy? Did you see the guy with the national anthem last night at the Panthers game?
I did. Yeah, that guy's.
Yeah, he looked great, man. I was like, I'm like, you look better than a lot of us.
Exactly.
I know, Jason, you have a question because we have it in the chat here. Shout out to Crown Prince.
We were not going to let the show wrap without Ace Ventura, of course. And everyone knows the scene. Yeah, pop a Jim Carrey right in the forehead. Yeah. But can you take us back to when the idea came up, or when you actually said yes, or how that whole thing materialized?
I was done playing for a few years, and I had bought a automobile battery distributorship, and so I'm slinging batteries and doing that and trying to make a living. And I get a call from Marino, and he calls me. I say, hey, what's up? And he says, hey, you want to be in a movie? And I go, what movie? He goes, I go, you're going to be in it? He goes, yeah. I go, what movie? He goes, well, this. He's like, hey, I don't know. This guy's a pet detective. I go, pet detective. Well, what? He goes, well, when someone loses their Super Bowl ring, and I go, well, what? And he goes, do you want to be on the fucking movie or not? That was all I got from him. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it with you. So and so I knew he didn't even know who Jim Carrey was, but I remember seeing Jim Carrey from the movie, the show he did,
Living Color.
Living Color, yeah. And I loved him in Living Color. And so I know the guy said, that'd be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. But I'm thinking nobody's going to listen. No one's going to see this movie. The way Danny, and even so the producer called me a couple of days later to schedule me for my deal. And even when he told me about it, no one's going to see this movie. And so he said, hey, how do you want to get paid? He said, do you want to get you want to get residuals, or do you want to get a one lump sum? Oh. No one's going to watch this movie. Just give me the one. I didn't say that to him, but I'm thinking to myself, just give me the one lump sum, Yeah. And so we did the movie, and it was great. Jim Carrey was great. As soon as we was in the Orange Bowl, as soon as I walked into the Orange Bowl, he came up to me, and I was with him for like 5 or 6 hours, and he couldn't have been nicer. And we did the thing in the shower, and and then that was it. And so
probably like to go back and do the residual, right?
Well, yeah. Well, so Danny did the same thing, but Danny got a little more money than I did. So
it's all right. You're doing all right. It's.
So when the movie came out, I'm driving home one day I'm driving down my street, and one of the kids next door to me saw me. He was on his bike, and I'm riding. So I look in the rearview mirror, and this guy's pedaling as fast as he can to catch up with me. And I pull in the driveway, and he jumps out and jumps off his bike and says, "Hey, I just saw you in Ace Ventura." And I said, "Yeah, what do you think?" He said, "I think you got a hairy back." So yeah, that brought me down a few notches. So.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good time to end the show. We'll end it on the hairy back. Bo, I'll tell you, I can speak for Jason, but this has been fantastic, and I hope we can do it again. And maybe next time you could bring Joe with you if that's possible, Joe.
Well, I tell you,
we'll do whatever we can for
all our subscriptions on YouTube, and we'll make it happen.
I'll tell you, everybody now, when you're done here, go to your iPad, go to your streamer, get a couple of downloads of Out the Pasture. Let's do one thing right.
Maybe we get him and Joe.
On outthepasturepodcast.com, you can see every episode that we've done.
Yeah, let everybody know where they can find you on wherever to find the podcast or whatever you got going on.
We're on all the platforms.
And the restaurant.
What's that?
The restaurant, Bokamper's. What do you got specials going on there daily or?
Yeah, we got all kinds of specials. Great burgers, great chicken wings. We're down if you're in Fort Lauderdale, I got Bo's Beach. I got the sports bar on the Intercoastal, and we just opened a place called Catch and Cut on Las Olas, which is kind of a high-end seafood steak place that's doing pretty well. So yeah, got a lot of things going on.
Yeah. So make sure you guys, first of all, make sure you go to the we'll try to put the link to the Out to Posture to where you can find the episodes. Yep. I'll put it in the video description. Make sure you follow Bo. Make sure you go to this great restaurants he has. We thank Bo and get those subscriptions up because that means maybe we get some with Bo and we get another guest with him maybe. But Bo, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah,
thank you, Bo.
For Kim, Jason, and myself, we're out. Everybody, as always, fins up and stay safe. We're out.